Reducing diabetes risk is paramount. Monitoring blood sugar levels
Yeah,
is something that we all
absolutely.
need to be aware of, especially men.
What dietary do you think is on the rise in the most recent year?
It's low FODMAP and IBS, but there's a really interesting thing happening at the moment where there seems to have been a bit of a misdiagnosis over the years of gluten-free and celiacs and IBS. We have been extremely exposed to toxic environments, toxic heavy metals, mold, biotoxins, forever chemicals in water, and those sorts of things. And they can have a response on the body that is different to that of the person you're sitting next to. Start with the baseline. Before you start with trying to make things taste great, start with baselines.
It's just all about making sure that you get the right nutrients in and that you're able to just get food into your system.
And if you're under stress, you could be in a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose weight.
Do something that you can implement long term, because that's where the real success lies.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Chew on This podcast. I have a really exciting guest here, Adam Rice, who is a renowned chef, kitchen coach, and a cookbook author with 25 years of experience. 25 years. Adam specializes in cooking for dietary requirements, which I think is something that we all need to learn about, because it may not be for us, but it may be for our friends, family, colleagues that do have a particular diet that they need to follow. So Adam, thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited to learn more about managing different dietary requirements.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's get started with just what inspired you to start helping people, I guess, learn or cook for different dietary requirements.
So the light bulb came on for me in around about 2007. I was working at a two-hat restaurant called Ezard, and we had a customer come in that was lactose, fructose, gluten intolerant, and a vegetarian. And we had to do 9 courses on the fly for them at two-hat level. And 4 or 5 chefs of us then scrambled, put our heads together and created a 9-course degustation for this person and served it to them. And they came back just so joyful that they finally got to have an experience that they never thought they'd be able to have because of their dietary restrictions. And the light bulb came on and I was like, what did we do? How do we do that? And I sort of thought that if I can unpack it and put it into a way that I can teach it to people, then I can help people and help health practitioners and help everyone else to implement health protocols so that everyone can enjoy good food.
That put the biggest smile on my face, because that moment where someone is like, wow, thank you for giving me such a delicious meal. Because immediately when someone gets diagnosed with an intolerance or is told that they need to eliminate something out of their diet, they're like, oh, I can never enjoy my favorite foods anymore. And that's the reason why I have you on this podcast, because you can, and we're going to educate our audience on how they can ensure they're still getting the flavor in their meals and cooking for their dietary requirements.
Yep.
So how did you actually do it? So that's a long list: gluten-free, fructose-free, low FODMAP. Do you have any health experience? Is it just your culinary expertise that you were like, okay, well, these are the foods that they can't have, so they can have this, and then you put it together? So how did you manage that?
Well, I'm not a health practitioner, so I don't really specialize in the diagnosis itself, or we can talk about how to best go get diagnosed. But what I do is I help people to understand their own health protocol and show them how to put it into their home kitchens. And if we all food, all ingredients, all recipes start from a whole food diet or from a whole food list. And what we do by order of cancellation, we get rid of all the ingredients that someone can't eat as prescribed by their health practitioner. And then we're left with a list of things that we can. And we show you how to custom create and curate your own menus, dishes, and recipes that are suitable for your diet as well as your family eating habits. And then we also show you how to put that into your kitchen in the way of, shopping lists and time-saving hacks and meal prep hacks and food sensory impact model hacks to make everything taste good. And I guess if we were to remove a recipe from the process of cooking, we help you with everything else around that. So kitchen strategy, kitchen concepts and ideas to help you to organize yourself, be faster and save a bunch of time, but also eat super good food as well in the process.
That's important, right? Eating super good food, because
good food.
What's life if you can't enjoy good food, right?
Exactly.
So actually, before I get into that question, what are some of the dietary requirements that you are familiar with and create recipes and education for?
The core focus of my business at the moment is gluten-free, But we work a lot with people with a diverse range of dietaries. I work with people with lectin intolerances, autoimmune diseases, antihistamine, as well as low FODMAP, vegetarian, plant-based, carnivore-based, diabetes as well. We can work with quite a diverse range of different dietaries, but we focus a lot in our business on gluten-free, but our models are using gluten-free as the example, but they can be adapted and adjusted to suit, your dietaries as well as how the family eats as well.
What dietary do you think is on the rise in the most recent year? What would you say most people are coming to you for? Would you say it's gluten-free?
It's low FODMAP and IBS, but there's a really interesting thing happening at the moment where there seems to have been a bit of a misdiagnosis over the years of gluten-free and celiacs and IBS. So a lot of people that were originally diagnosed with celiacs are now being re-diagnosed with IBS. And it also seems that I'm hearing a lot of endometriosis within women as well is coming quite a lot, but I don't really do endometriosis, a bit of a different area, but I do a lot of gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, and IBS as well, yeah, low fructose FODMAP.
Can we talk about the IBS and the low FODMAP? Because it is something that gets thrown around a lot in conversations. What is that? What is, IBS? What is a low FODMAP diet?
So IBS is irritable bowel syndrome, and I'm not a health practitioner, so I may butcher the description of this, but essentially they're fermentable sugars that occur in the stomach. And from my understanding, there are 6 key sugars: fructose, glucose, lactose, and a couple of others. You'd have to check the Monash FODMAP app to be super clear. But IBS is irritable bowel syndrome, and there's particular sugars that are present in most fruits and vegetables. And there's different combinations or stacks of those sugars to which different people can have different reactions and responses to. So it's a very complicated area and requires a lot of finicking, a lot of adjusting for each individual circumstance.
The Monash app is great, by the way, for anyone that's, does experience IBS or needs to follow a low FODMAP diet. Seeing the different colors where it's like green and red, that alerts what the fructose levels are and so on. Great recommendation. Do you follow any particular dietary, or do you have any dietary requirements yourself that you?
No, not really actually. The Monash app has been so good in the sense that it helps me to be able to navigate with my clients. So you really do, if you've got IBS, you really do need to be working with a health practitioner to help navigate the elimination and reintroduction stage. And as I said, from my limited knowledge of the actual the condition, what I focus on is working with things that you can have and show you how to utilize those ingredients. But more so importantly is working with your dietitian or health practitioner that you trust to help you to go through this process, because IBS and a low FODMAP diet is only a temporary diet. You do need to come back onto a regular sort of whole food or adjusted diet once you go through the process.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is an elimination diet, but you need to be reintroducing foods, and it's only for a short period of time. So what do you do if someone comes to you that wants to exclude a particular food group or wants to restrict themselves, let's say for weight loss purposes, not for any other reason? They've not been diagnosed. They're like, I just don't want to have gluten because gluten is the enemy. What would you say to that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, funnily enough, gluten and weight loss are not tied together. Gluten is a protein that's found in particular ingredients, barley, rye, wheat, and so on, that play a different role in how it reacts with our stomachs. But gluten doesn't cause weight gain, and weight gain can't be eliminated by eliminating gluten. So when someone comes to me and says they want to eliminate gluten so they can lose weight, my first question would be is, who told you that? Where did you get that information? Because it genuinely leans in towards the possibility that they're self-diagnosing and they're spending too much time on the internet, and they're uncomfortable, and there's budget restraints that come with that. I can fix it myself. I'm all right. It's just a little upset stomach. But then as we go on down the path that, you can get in a real pickle. But when someone comes to me with that, I said, who's your health practitioner? What are they working on? And what's the diagnosis? And let's work with what's real before we start going down the rabbit hole of guessing.
I'm glad you said that. And if someone is telling you to do it and they're not a practitioner, or you've not been tested for it, or it's on TikTok, just block them, because that is false information.
Well, we'll dive into it yourself, and question it yourself. Generally, one thing that I've really discovered in the last 12 months through my own desire to learn about my own health conditions, but more so preventative rather than problematic. There are so many other things that are at play. We have been extremely exposed to toxic environments, toxic heavy metals, mold, biotoxins, forever chemicals in water, and those sorts of things. And they can have a response on the body that is different to that of the person you're sitting next to. Yeah. So it would be, for example, me, I'm working with a naturopath at the moment, and we're doing an oligo scan as well as bioresonance, as well as fecal testing, as well as blood testing, as well as breath testing for fructose, because I displayed a particular set of symptoms which I'd had before. And she said, let's do these tests so we're not going down the rabbit hole of trying to test everything. And it's really important that you're working with someone that understands the dynamic of what the problem can be, and that involves not guessing. So if you say you're bloated, losing gluten is probably not going to help, but just really doing a full proper consultation and understanding the scope of the things that might be going wrong. And they can be physical, mental, or spiritual.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because that is exactly what the two ladies that I had on the podcast before this actually mentioned as well. What's your daily diet like? It's just, such a random question, but like, what's, a day on a plate for you, Adam?
First thing I do when I wake up is coffee.
Oh, who doesn't wake up with coffee?
I coffee first, and then I hydrate. I use the morning to get all my electrolytes in. So I'll hydrate, have my lemon water, apple cider vinegar and stuff like that. And then hot breakfast. But interestingly enough, I used to, because I don't actually like eating cereal, but I eat cereal because it has, you get your nuts, your seeds, you get your in berries.
So you weren't talking about like Fruit Loops when you say cereal?
No. I eat an organic, like sugar-free granola, and I have coconut milk, and I have been putting that in the microwave for 45 seconds, and it is bringing me the most joy of any breakfast I've ever had. Hot breakfast is really good, and in Chinese medicine, they say it's good to have a hot breakfast if you're a cold body. So I enjoy a hot breakfast, either cook it myself or I'll have warm cereal. And then I will have a small snack, usually of like a rice cracker with tuna or cheese or something like that on it. And then I will train. I'd like to train. I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, strength and conditioning, as well as yoga. And I train on an empty stomach. And so before I train, I'll ensure I have a hydrolyte, a little bit of coffee, and a bunch of water. And then it'll be a medium to large meal after it, mostly some kind of rice or grain or carbohydrate with vegetables and protein. I don't eat like I'm in a restaurant. When I'm at home, I just want to eat simple. I want to eat easy. I eat a lot of those pre-steamed rice packets, a lot of protein and just vegetables. And if you stick chopped up vegetables in the microwave with a bit of water for 2.5 minutes, they're perfect.
Oh, guys, that's a little tip, a little hack.
Yeah. So I eat really simply when I'm at home, and I just want to eat for fuel, but I'm also conscious of weight gain and things like that as well. I don't want to be overweight. I want to reduce diabetes risk. Yeah. Reducing diabetes risk is paramount. Monitoring blood sugar levels is something that we all need to be aware of, especially men in lifestyle diseases, lifestyle disease.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned keeping it simple and being able to just have microwavable rice, because people just think that you need to overcomplicate it and you need to go and make everything from scratch. And sometimes it's just all about making sure that you get the right nutrients in and that you're able to just get food into your system, a good protein, get some rice or grains that are already pre-made that you can just heat up, throw some veggies in the microwave, and that's it. And just ensuring that you're getting your proteins, your fats, your fiber, your micros is just so important. So I'm glad that you mentioned that it's not always restaurant quality every time you have a meal.
So interestingly enough, because there's here lies the challenge that we have in our homes of wanting to eat well, wanting to be healthy, not having the time to do it nor the budget, but still wanting to do all the things. I want to eat simple food, but I don't want to have to prep it. And I want to eat a good steak, but I can't afford it. And the kids won't eat this. And, Jimmy won't eat anything that's not blue and all these things, right? So one thing that we really focus on at BFB is time saving. And when we've got a personal trainer for our fitness, we've got a coach for our business, we've got an advisor for our finances, but we don't have someone to help us manage our kitchen environment. And one thing that I noticed is like, who taught you how to cook the way that you cook and organize the way you organize and strategize the way that you did? And one thing that I've realized is we have this kind of habit of this behavior. If we go shopping, get all our stuff, come home and shove it all in the fridge and order pizza, and then we've got a half-stocked fridge of things that weren't put away properly, and then we're trying to meal prep a new thing every night, which takes forever. So what I recommend to my clients is pick 1 to 2 nights a week where you're exploring, where you're doing something fun, that you're doing something creative, and then 3 or 4 nights a week, it's just super simple. And the way you even save more time on that is instead of coming home and shoving everything in the fridge, pick your herbs, make your dressings, marinate your meat, reorganize your cupboard, stock up on your pastas and your flours and all those sorts of things, and like get your kitchen ready as if you're kind of going to do a bit of a Christmas Day thing. And then what you get to do is, and then you can also bulk batch on that too. So make big pasta sauces and make big soups and roast your chicken or do bits of meal prep or make your wraps and whatever. And then what happens is throughout the week, you're literally just cooking up fresh food because you've got a bit of a thing of slaw. You've already got some veggies cut. You've got a marinade made. You've got a dressing ready. You've got herbs picked. And so you can cook fresh food all the time. And so we really focus on helping people to fill their pantry and their, we call it provisions, and have that as abundant as you can, a bit like a prepper.
Yep.
And so that you just go shopping every week or every 2 weeks, and then you just get to cook fresh food. We don't need to reheat food or meal prep or freeze food or like.
Doesn't taste as good, right? No.
We just change the way we think about how we do things.
Yeah.
And, people also will faff around a lot. You go into the supermarket, you'll spend 2 hours walking around and doing the things. Then you'll come home and you'll put some music on and read a book and try a thing. And no, if you want to save yourself a lot of time, get into the supermarket, place your orders, get the hell out of there, get home, organize yourself, sit down, enjoy the rest of your week.
So smart. I found that the weeks that I was actually chopping all of my veggies and marinating my meats on the Sunday, my week of like meal planning or like my cooking was just far more successful because it was ready for me. I actually had no excuse because my tomatoes were already cut. My cucumber was, cut. Everything was ready for me to just put together a salad, and then I just cook the protein, and it takes, 15 minutes as opposed to half an hour on a weeknight when I'm already so tired from work.
Yeah.
So you're so right about that.
And the flexibility is if you don't want to eat a salad, you can use it in a pasta, or you can use it in a braise, or you can use the tomatoes in a thing. And so by prepping a few bits and pieces and getting your fridge like organized, picking some herbs, topping up your spice rack, making condiments, like using up the leftover tomatoes for a chutney or a pickle and stuff, and having a bit of a thought process like a prepper. You do that once a week or even once every 2 weeks if you've got big enough stores, or even every 10 days. You just cook whatever you want all week, like forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much easier. You get to cook on the fly. You can adjust things. You can not eat something, and it's much easier.
And it doesn't go to waste.
Nothing goes to waste either.
Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah.
So what are some staples that you recommend? So weekly shop, what are some staples that you recommend to some of your clients or people that work with you? I know that it varies based on dietary requirements and restrictions, but just for like the everyday person, like what would you say?
So the same strategy that I use when I'm working is the same strategy that I teach to my clients, and it's the same strategy that I see chefs do as well. Once a month, gut your pantry, pull it all apart. There's so much gold that's sitting in the back of your pantry that you didn't even know about, that you forgot about. It might be the truffle paste, it might be the tuna, it might be the whatever it is. Pull your cupboard apart and focus on not ingredients, but things like staples, flour, pasta, rice, grains, legumes, chutneys, pickles, sauces, spices, oils, vinegars, and have all of your favorite ones of those in your cupboard, so that then once a week you can literally go and buy a box of fresh produce from the market. So if the dollars are running low, order a fruit and veg box delivered. Go find some cheap meat from either Aldi or a wholesale butcher, and then you're still cooking fresh food. But where the cost goes up is where we go, I want to make sanchoy bao and this and dumplings and this, and then you go to the local supermarket and you buy it all at once, and then your food bill goes from $150 to like $400. And so if we think like a prepper and we keep bits and pieces in our cupboard all the time, in our freezer, like always collecting food, your life is so much easier. And that way, if the kids are sick or you run out of cash or you can't be bothered, you've still got like a week's worth of food in the fridge.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. 'Cause on Saturday night, I wanted to make homemade pizzas, but I thought I didn't have any of the ingredients. I probably didn't have any of the ingredients. And so I started adding it into like a Milk Run app.
Oh, yeah.
And then it like the cost of like 2 pizzas, because it was myself and my partner, whatever, he's just like, just order some pizzas on Uber Eats.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's going to be cheaper. And I was like, yep, you're right. You're right about that. But if you're aware of what's in your pantry, you're able to actually make use of what's available to you, so that, because you're so right. If you want dumplings tomorrow and then pizza the next day and this and that and whatever, and you're purchasing based on every meal like that, it becomes so expensive.
Yeah.
Like so expensive.
So what you want to do is you want to write down, like sit down. First thing, if you've got dietaries, you need to get clear on ingredients, because you don't want cross-contamination. You don't want your husband to accidentally poison you. You don't want the kids to accidentally drink the wrong thing. So you want to get real clear on what ingredients you can have in your pantry. And this is going to save you money, because then you're not like buying the expensive lamingtons that are gluten-free at $14 a thing, because you could probably make lamingtons yourself at home if your pantry and staples are set up. And then what you want to do is write down like 100 dishes that you want to eat. Just brain dump. 5 breakfasts, 5 snacks, 20 lunches, 20 dinners. And then what you'll see is there'll be a lot of similarities in the types of ingredients that you can throw together. But for your case, you might just need to make sure that there's dumpling skins in the freezer.
Yeah.
Because you've probably got some chicken mince, you've probably got a bit of ginger, you've probably got a bit of curry paste. Yeah. You can whip up a bit of a dumpling mix. But then the pizza on your meal prep, so pizza dough takes 2 or 3 days to make and freezes fine, but on your Sunday, just make a pizza dough.
Yeah.
The next day, portion it out, leave it in the freezer. If you want to make it. If you don't, just freeze them.
Smart. Very smart. Very cost saving as well, which is great.
Yeah, it's what happened. Well, that's where our food blows out.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a controversial statement, but I'm anti-Coles and Woolworths because of the price hiking. And so how do you save people money without having the need to go to Woolworths and Coles? It doesn't require you to drive for 3 hours once a month to do it. And that's utilising things like online stores and online groceries. Like one of the cheapest groceries that you can go to are the Asian groceries and the Indian supermarkets.
Really?
Spices, rice, veggies, coconut milk, so cheap.
What about protein? Because I find that it's the meat that is costing the most, seafood and just steak, which I know you touched on, like the cost of steak. Where would you recommend getting them from?
So there's a lot of wholesale butchers out now that are available to public. And so I recommend wholesale butchers and buying bulk meat, or using a company like Our Cow, where you basically buy a quarter of the cow and they'll portion it for you and freeze it and give it to you in packs. And if you can buy your meat in bulk, you'll generally pay like say $14 to $18 per kilo, regardless of what you get, as opposed to $75 a kilo for eye fillet.
That's how much I pay for my eye fillet.
Yeah.
And I'm weird, and you probably can just help me overcome this, but I can't freeze meat. I can't eat defrosted meat. Why?
What happens is
why am I so against it?
Well, similar to mashed potato. I can't freeze mashed potato. It's disgusting.
Do people freeze mashed potato?
It's not. No.
I've heard people freeze their wedding cake.
If you're freezing mashed potato, stop doing it.
But like, just like, how can I overcome this like fear of freezing meat? Because my partner is like so for it. I'm just like, cool, you eat all that steak that's been frozen. I'm going to get a fresh eye fillet for $100 because that's how much it costs.
So what happens when we defrost something is I'm not the food scientist, but it kind of breaks down, and the protein like breaks down a bit and goes a little bit grainy. The muscle structure isn't as strong, and it kind of like loses a lot of its liquid, and then you eat it and it's a little bit watery, and so it just doesn't taste the same as what fresh meat does. But if you buy meat that's been cryovac, like Aldi has Scotch fillets at the moment for like $12 each, and they're cryovac, and you stick them in the freezer, bit of oil, bit of salt, straight in the air fryer, and they're delightful.
Really? Okay.
So cryovacing meat is a really good way to preserve it in the fridge and also in the freezer. And then also you can defrost it just as quickly too. If you've got a piece of Glad wrapped eye fillet and you want it for dinner that night, by the time you sink it in water, it's going to be gross. But if you buy some Cryovac die fillets, which you can still get, we've got low cost here and high cost. Your butcher can Cryovac anything that you want, but then you can go buy low cost eye fillet from Aldi, stick it in the freezer. Then when you want eye fillet, run it under water, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you've got steak that tastes just as good as if it was fresh. Same goes with fish.
What's Cryovac? Is that vacuum sealed?
Vacuum sealing, yeah.
But don't they mostly do that? What happens if like I have a 2-pack and I only eat one of the steaks?
You only want to eat one more?
Yeah, and then I have one that's left, but I've already opened it. How do I then put that in the freezer?
You could buy a little vacuum sealer for your home. I recommend having a little vacuum sealer for your home for those purposes. But I wouldn't put a piece of steak in a container in the freezer. I just find a way to eat it. Make a Thai beef salad, mince it up and make a little hamburger out of it. Yeah. Make a little sanchoy bao out of it.
So it's not just a piece of steak, really.
Yeah. Like every month what you want to do is like all those half jars of things in your fridge, all those open, like yard sale, everything. Use it all up, put in a pickle, make a chutney, make a marinade, put in the kids' lunches, put in husband's lunch, use it up and then buy stuff all over again.
Okay, I need to get back onto the topic of dietary requirements
totally.
Because I'm asking questions for my own personal benefit right now. Okay, let's get back into that topic. I know our audience would have definitely benefited from that topic, but let's chat on dietary restrictions specifically. So, look, it can be incredibly overwhelming to start a new diet after a diagnosis, or a health practitioner said, "Look, you're intolerant to this, and you need to eliminate this." What are your top suggestions for making this transition easier?
The first thing is, if you think you're overdoing it, you probably are. If you're in there and you're thinking, I want to make this gluten-free pasta and I want to make it from scratch because I made it before and all this stuff, and then you get yourself in a fizz, tools down, drop it, change the strategy, doesn't matter. If you're finding after a long day's work that you're getting really overwhelmed and you're frustrated in the kitchen, you're spending too much time in there, just drop your tools down, walk out, do a little rebreathe, come back in, try again. We have this idea that we think that we need to be cooking awesome food all the time that's the best. So 3 or 4 days a week, just go simple. If you've got a new dietary, find a way to make a good gluten-free pasta, good sauce, your favourite roast, which should be gluten-free, your favourite fish and pick your top 10 dishes that you know how to make and adjust them. So swap outs and substituting things is a really key thing to do. But when you want to swap something out like soy sauce, find the soy sauce that you like and stick to it. I like to use Mega Chef range. They've got oyster sauce, fish sauce, soy sauce, and stuff, and their stuff's really good and it's made naturally. So you want to really focus on your staples in your pantry and nail it, because you don't want to be frustrated going, I really want pancakes, but I don't know how to make pancakes. I don't have xanthan gum. I don't have gluten-free flour. I don't know how to stabilize it. I don't know the things. So you want to find the things that you love and find out how to make them and start there. And then what you can then do is go, I feel like making sanchoy bao, or I feel like making a chicken roulade. And then what you'll do is you'll then discover ways in how you can adjust the recipe to suit the particular modality, the dietary requirement. But then understanding restraint is really important. So how far can I take something? If you need to make a dough, if you add too much water to the dough, it's going to be soft. So the restraint is adding the right amount of water to the right amount of flour, or for example, swapping the soy out for the gluten-free soy and applying restraint. So being clear on the intention of what you want to cook. I want to make a pasta. Okay, what are the qualities of a pasta? And how can I do that with substitutes, applying restraint, so that I can still get the same result? And then that's how you can adjust things. And we can talk about how to season and balance things as well. And so start with the baseline. Before you start with trying to make things taste great, start with baselines. And then what we have a model called the sensory impact model. It shows you how to zhuzh up any dish with what you've got on hand. Now, most of the characteristics of making something taste good aren't dietary specific. So fresh herbs, olive oil, vinegar, salt, something crunchy, something herby, something spice, something umami. But what makes food taste epic is creaminess and condiments. So if you add something creamy and something pickly or something like a condiment to your food, it's going to make it taste epic. If you add something crunchy and something with herbs to that, it's going to taste even better. So let's say that we're not great cooks and we overcook the pumpkin for the pumpkin salad. Still totally fine. Rocket, pine nuts if you can eat nuts, dairy-free cheese, which is the creamy, some fresh herbs, bit of dressing, still going to taste epic. So by understanding what goes into a chef, and if you look at like TikTok and if you look at video recipes, what was the element of seasoning and garnish that they put onto that which made it taste good?
So garnishes are not just used to make them look pretty.
No.
They're actually there to make them taste good.
To add variation to the dish.
So when you see everyone put like sesame seeds on top of their recipe on TikTok right at the end, it's not because they're trying to make it look better. It's because it actually serves its purpose as well.
Serves a purpose,
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So if it's not you that has specific dietary needs, but it's a family member, it's a partner, it's, a friend or a colleague, how can you support them? Because we all know that food plays a significant part in making memories, celebration, and even bonding. So like what can you do to support them on this journey that they're on when it comes to just being, having particular dietaries?
The person, and often I hear stories of, for example, I worked with a guy and he had gout. So he had to remove heavy red meats, alcohol, tomato, and a few other things from his diet, but didn't know how to cook. And so his wife was racking her brain, trying to do her own elimination diet, trying to work her own dietaries out while trying to do dietaries. And all of a sudden she's cooking two different things and then the kids want bloody tacos and he wants steak and it gets very confusing. So the individual needs to take a little bit of responsibility for what they're putting in their body, especially unless you're a child. We're adults, eat your greens and look after your diet. It's the most paramount thing that you can do. But you have to take responsibility for yourself. And if the person who's cooking in the house is different to the person that's struggling, I recommend for the person that's cooking, make everything the same. You don't need to be making two different meals for two different people. If you want steak and you want fish, the salad's the same, the potato's the same, the rice is the same. Make the rice low FODMAP, make the potatoes low FODMAP, gluten-free, don't add the cream, and then you just kind of add protein.
Yeah.
So how we make our food taste epic is sides, carbohydrate, and salads, right? And then add the protein. Protein's not really always the main event. But if you make a really good salad or a really good side or a really good potato or a really good rice, it's gonna outweigh anything that you do with the steak or the chicken or the fish or whatever it is. With a nice dressing, that's how you're going to build a great dish. Not by buying a $97 a kilo Wagyu fillet and then burning your carrots and wondering why it didn't work properly.
I'm laughing because that's me. Well, I don't burn my carrots. I'm actually a pretty good cook, but it's me that's buying the $97 a kilo steak and thinking that's going to make the dish taste so much better.
Yeah.
But it's actually such a great tip because it also applies with those that are on a weight loss journey, right? They always think, I can't be eating what my family's eating because I need to be eating different because I'm on a weight loss journey. They end up, restricting and cutting things out and, only having like a piece of protein and, one type of veggie or whatever. But it's like, no, you can still have your tacos and you can still have, the pasta and so on, but make smart switches in order to make it just more macro friendly, have more fiber, have more protein so that you can enjoy that with your family. So it very much applies to those that have, that need to follow particular dietaries. It's like, well, you need still have the same meal with your family, but swap out the things like protein where you can without making it turn into something far more complex for everyone else involved.
Yeah. Make really good sides.
Yeah.
Like love salad, love veggies, love making things. And then, you're going to save a bunch of money on protein as well because I just add protein. When I'm cooking for people with dietaries, I will customize like all of my salads, for example, to be all low FODMAP. And they'll all be gluten-free, they'll all be dairy-free, they'll all be nut-free. So they've already ticked off 4 main concerns. So then if you're cooking for a group of people, you just make everything gluten-free.
Yeah.
No, don't cook pasta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or make a really nice pasta and find a good gluten-free pasta and everyone eats the same. I've never had someone come up to me and say, oh, there should have been onion and garlic in that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk on those that are plant-based. How do you recommend they increase their protein? So what would you do in those instances where they do, eliminate any animal products out of their diet? Where would you recommend they get their protein from?
You really need to be clear on your goals first. For me, for example, a plant-based diet doesn't work for me because I'm trying to consume 150 grams of protein a day. So I wouldn't go on a plant-based diet personally. But if you are on a plant-based diet, and you do need to be very conscious of your proteins, macros, and micros particularly, but I'd be finding ways in which you can sneak in protein. So if you're plant-based and you eat yogurt, eat chia seeds. Chickpeas, do different things with chickpeas, do different things with lentils, do different things with tofu, do different things with these ingredients that are high in protein, and find a bunch of different variations in which you can enjoy those. And then you'll still have diversity. But people on a plant-based, and this is, again, could be a controversial statement, but plant-based protein and vegan-based diets can be risky in the sense that if you're not getting enough protein, then you can be later down the track be at risk of other ailments, which we all know about. We don't need to unpack those, but yeah.
Protein is a very important macronutrient.
Totally.
For a number of reasons, right? There are health benefits, muscle repair, recovery, satiety, feeling fuller for longer. It's just, the best macronutrient that you should consume and prioritize for good health. And so, yes, if you are plant-based or follow, some sort of vegan diet, it's important that you understand how to increase those protein levels, because just eating veggies is not going to get you anywhere near having optimal amounts of protein.
And fat.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, actually, funny enough, I was speaking to someone who was a vegetarian, before this, not on a podcast, just someone that I was in conversation with. And she was talking about regulating her menstrual cycle as a female. And she's vegetarian. She's like, I struggle to get my fat intake up. And fat is known to promoting healthy hormones and, ensuring everything's regulated. And it's just, fats are important for hormonal regulation. Yeah. And she's not able to get that because of her choices as a vegetarian. So she's making that conscious effort to have more olive oil, more avocado, more nuts and seeds, peanut butter and so on, to increase her fat levels, because having a plant-based diet is predominantly high in carbs and not enough in protein and fats unless you make that effort to become educated on what those sources are in the way that you prefer to eat, which is important.
Totally. And again, high carbs and high white carbs has its own inherent risk as well, because then we're spiking blood sugars.
Yeah.
And then we lead into diabetes risk and all those sorts of things. So having a well-balanced diet is really important, but really eating all the colors, be sure to eat nuts, be sure to have your antioxidants in your berries, and eat a wide variety of a different lot of foods. Which sometimes can be the struggle with weight loss, is because people think it's just chicken, rice and broccoli 5 days a week.
I will never understand. And that's the reason why I started my business, was because I was so confused as to why people believe that they would only need to eat chicken and broccoli in order to lose weight. I was guilty of it. I went through my own transformation journey and lost 30 kilos. And I went on every fad diet you could possibly think of. And when I became educated on the science of nutrition, I was like, why do people believe that they need to eliminate all this food, stop eating carbs and be on low carb and all this, when really it's everything in moderation? You need to follow a diet that you can sustain for the rest of your life. You need to build healthy habits overall, and then essentially do something that you can implement long term, because that's where the real success lies.
Yeah.
Losing weight is one thing, but keeping it off is another. And if you're not enjoying the method, there is a high chance that you'll regain that weight and
100%.
You'll just rebound.
100%. And then another thing that I see that was interesting for me, because I was 110 kilos at my heaviest as well. Wow. And I went to a dietitian and I said, man, I can't lose the weight. And he's like, what do you eat? I said, I have, 2 pieces of toast for breakfast, or I might have a bowl of cereal. And then, I'll have a sandwich for lunch, and it's all healthy. And I would go this health. And he's like, you're having double the amount of carbs you need to be having. I was like, what do you mean? And then when I halved the carbs and I had smaller portion sizes, therefore reducing my calorie intake, within 3 months, I dropped 8 kilos.
Yeah, a lot of people make the excuse of, well, I'm eating healthy, so I can eat this in excess. I can have more nuts and seeds or a whole avocado in one sitting and this and that, because it's a health food. But what they don't realize is that they're increasing their calorie intake as well in the same breath. So if your goal is weight loss, then you need to be mindful of what your caloric intake is. And I think what you said earlier on in the podcast with understand what your goals are. What is your goal? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to become healthy? Are you trying to put on muscle? Like, what is your goal? Because that will really define what, you know, that next phase of your eating cycle is going to look like. Because for some people, it's just eating healthy. So eat a whole avocado. That's fine. You're just maintaining your weight. You don't need to worry about the calories that are in each meal. And you're probably just sitting at maintenance. But if you are trying to lose weight, then maybe you'll just have half the avocado as opposed to the full avocado in your sandwich, for example. So you were going to say something.
Well, I think what's really interesting on that is that what I see in my work, and I talk to a lot of clients and a lot of health practitioners, is we live in a world where our nervous system is grossly overstimulated. Yeah. And if you're under stress, you could be in a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose weight. And so when we're not sleeping well, when we're drinking poor water, and when we're even half attempting a diet with no intervention, this is not even considering testing, Chinese medicine, all these other things. If your nervous system is cooked and you're not sleeping well, you're not going anywhere fast. And so the first most important thing is check in with your nervous system, meditate. I feel like I'm constantly like buzzing, like the pilot light is still on the oven all the time. If you feel like you can't sleep at night, like have a look at the way and feel how your nervous system feels. Because if you feel like your nervous system is burning, none of this other health protocol stuff's going to work.
Oh, stress has the biggest impact on our health as a whole. And we just underestimate what it can do to us, you know, when it comes to like chronic disease and so on. And, you know, we just think it's so normal to feel this. I'm guilty of it. Like I said on my podcast before this, I don't know what life is without stress, right? But you're so right. It just impacts us in so many ways. And if something is not going well or right and you're trying everything, look inwards. Like, what is your mind like right now? What is, you know, how are you feeling? Like, what are your stress levels at? And a lot of the answers will lie there.
Yeah. As a chef working for 25 years at the top end of the industry, what happens with stress is when we apply intensity to stress, we get burnout. So we can be stressed, we can have a lot going on, but if we're calm in the mind and calm in the body and calm in the heart, things can happen, but as long as we don't add intensity to them, then we can regulate that burnout phase. And this is what happens. We've got so much going on and we work hard to try and get it all done. And we're like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So have you deloaded this week? Have you meditated? Have you had an ice bath? Have you vented, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
When was the last time you had a good cry in the corner? You know, sometimes that's what we need then and there to
I think I have far too many of them. But look, we are running out of time and I have one more question just to end this podcast. So for our listeners who want to start making positive dietary changes today, what are 3 practical steps that they can take immediately to begin improving their health and managing their dietary needs?
Get clear on where you're at. Like if you need testing, if you've not worked with a health practitioner or you've been tested or the testing was inaccurate, I worked with NIM, the National Institute of Integrative Medicine. I work with Lucas, who was on your podcast from Boost Your Biology. I work with Jess from Inside Out Nutrition, and I got tested. That's the first thing. Second thing is get clear on what your family do and don't like to eat. If you don't like to eat it, don't put it in your house. And third, once a month, organize your stuff. Like write it all down, organize your pantry, blah, blah, shop it out, and then just go shopping every week and enjoy cooking fresh food all the time.
3 very practical tips. Thank you so much, Adam.
You're
that
welcome.
was such a great episode. So insightful. I know we actually tapped into a few elements, but it was very cost saving, meal prepping and planning, setting yourself up for success, managing dietaries for those in your family.
Understanding health, understanding yourself.
Adding more flavor. How to what did you say? How to pimp up your meals?
How to zhuzh up your meals.
How to zhuzh up your meals. So such a great episode. Thank you for joining me.
Super. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Chew on This. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I loved being a part of it, and I'll see you at our next one.